Good morning, David. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Can you just start off, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what made you decide to join the military?
Okay. Well, I'm originally from a small town near Charlotte, North Carolina, called Albemarle. Very tiny little town. Grew up there, and I was working as a lifeguard after my senior year in high school, and my best friend was also a co-buddy guard there at the pool, and he said, I want to go to college. I said, well, I do as well. I just don't have the money. Mm-hmm. He said, well, I have the grades. You don't. But he said, but I also don't have the money. He said, let's go in the Army. This was 1968. I said, they're shooting real bullets over there, buddy. That's exactly what I told him. And he said, yeah, but they'll pay for college after 2 years. Let's volunteer for the draft. And over a period of maybe a week or so, I got to thinking about that. It made perfect sense given my situation and his situation. And within that week, my mom passed away. And my dad had gone 10 years before. So I was left in a very unique position to very easily go sign up. And the day he and I went down to volunteer for the draft in October of 1968, two other high school friends happened to be signing up the same day. So four of us went in together. Yeah. So that was the reason. But once I was engaged in that, I was really engaged in that. And I grew up under my scoutmaster, who was a World War II paratrooper, 82nd Airborne. And about 70 or 80 of his, and by the way, the name of his Boy Scout troop was Troop 82.
Imagine that.
60 or 70 of his scouts went on later to become paratroopers. So it was like this mentoring effect that this guy Chuck had on me. And I tapped into that big time because I had learned a lot from that man growing up through the scouts, camping trips. He took us rock climbing and rappelling when no one was doing that in the Boy Scouts. He was a recreation director for the city that I worked in. So he was just always this presence. So once I did get in, and I really just kind of sunk my teeth into the Army.
Sounds like he was a good mentor, huh?
He was tremendous. Yeah. He was tremendous. So I went through, it's funny, my buddy had a very high IQ. You get placement tested when you go in, as you're aware. And, you know, they just gave me a gun, sent him to school. They had me figured out pretty easy. You know, do you like to camp? Do you like to hike? Do you like to shoot a gun? Okay. Boy,
infantry.
He's infantry, yeah. This guy, he's going to military intelligence, and that's exactly what happened. But so I was infantryman. I went through Ranger training. I was paratrooper, and I graduated from the NCO Academy. You mentioned BNOC earlier.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And I graduated from the NCO Academy in Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay.
Little cliff note there. One of my best friends going through that was Tom Ridge. Anybody knows that name?
Yeah.
First Director of Homeland Security
That's nice, yeah.
in George Bush's administration, just following 9/11. And he was a close friend. He graduated #1 in that class. And Tom went on to become the governor of Pennsylvania, and he achieved a lot of things. But what a great guy. And I asked him one day, he had just graduated from Harvard on a scholarship. And he was a hard knock kid. He grew up in the projects in Philadelphia. And he graduated. I said, Tom, what in the world are you doing here in Fort Benning, Georgia, with a Harvard degree? I barely got out of high school. He said, I want to be here. I said, you should be an officer. He said, oh, no, I don't want to be an officer. He said, I want to be here on the ground with the guys. And he went on to be a platoon sergeant in Vietnam. And I've seen him on TV since, but I've never spoken to him since. But yeah, anyway, that was a very unique experience going to that NCO Academy. Nice. I graduated as a Sergeant E5 at 19, went to Vietnam, eventually got promoted to Staff Sergeant. I was platoon sergeant. And I only served 2 years in, but being a DOD contractor and being at a lot of these military bases, working directly with the fine young men and fine young women in this country before their deployments, I felt like I was still in. I felt like I was part of that whole thing because I was deeply engaged and immersed in trying to help those people get prepped before they went downrange. So I supported a lot of units through OIF, which is Operation Iraqi Freedom, OEF, Operation Enduring Freedom. I supported the little bit, 75th Rangers. I supported them for about 4 or 5 years. And that was in the heyday of when they were doing their intel gathering for both of those engagements. But great people, made some good friends.
Good. So for those that aren't aware, that watch this interview, let me describe what you have some of the
Jump wings, from Fort Benning Airborne School. And then this is a CIB, which I know you know what this is. This is a combat infantry badge, and it's it's indicative of serving in a combat zone and being in so many engagements. And it's kind of funny. I got home, and of course, again, I got out at 20 years of age, staff sergeant at 20, just wet behind the ears. But I got home, and I kept getting these medals in the mail. I didn't even know what they were. I got 2 air medals. I didn't even know there was such a thing as an air medal. But we lived on helos. We lived on helicopters. And all of our missions were helo bound. And you're 19 years of age, and you got your legs hanging off the outdoor of a helicopter, and you're doing about 60 knots, and you're banking like this. A lot of fun. Yeah. They're pretty exciting. Yeah. So you got to get out.
Yeah. Try that way.
Yeah.
So while you were in, obviously you had your scoutmaster there, but in the military, was there somebody that you maybe knew that was influential to you throughout that process as well? Or?
My answer is everyone was influential, but the best training I ever received was going through some of the Ranger training. Those guys had been there. They knew what they were doing, and there was no BS. It was none of the, what I'll call the Army regs. It was none of that spit, shine, and polish.
Right.
It was the things you needed to know that were going to keep you and others alive, because that whole training in this particular course in the academy, they were trying to develop, and they were very successfully developing team sergeants, patrol sergeants for combat in Vietnam specifically. So I found them to just be highly motivational, very committed to what they were doing. And again, there was no, they didn't throw any crap at you. Nice. They threw all the crap at you. Okay.
They got all.
But it was what you needed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I really can say I saw 1 or 2 people in my entire time in the Army that didn't really have the soldiers' best interest at heart, but that was always in basic training. After that, everybody was a professional.
Right.
Yeah.
And basic training. We can go on forever about basic training. Now, when you were getting ready to ETS, when you were getting ready to separate, did you already have a plan for that, or like what did that look like? Your transition out?
I've been told recently that I had a hard time adjusting when I came back, and as I look back on that time, again, 20 years old, been through all that training, and then you're immersed into combat, and now you're walking around looking for civilian clothes, and I didn't own any. Right. But my buddy told me, he said, you struggle with that, and he said, then you met your wife. She straightened you out.
There we go.
Yeah.
And what year was that?
1970.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you left, did you go right here to Florida, or where did you?
Oh, no. I've only been in Florida the past 8 years.
Oh. Okay.
My son fell in love with a girl. She was going to grad school, and he was living in Atlanta, and she was going to Emory. He met this girl, fell in love, asked her to marry him, and she said, when I graduate, we're going back to where mom and dad live and back home, because she grew up right here, Palm Harbor. So that's what got us here. They had their first child, and I came home from work one day, and my wife said, come here, sit down. Let's have a glass of wine on the front porch. I need to talk to you. Oh, my, I'm in trouble.
You know where that's going.
Yeah. And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, we're moving to Florida. And I said, yes, ma'am.
There you go.
And we've been here 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long you been married now?
I was married for 47 years.
47.
My wife passed away last year.
That's
Yeah, but 47 years. We were together for 50, 3.
God bless it.
Yeah.
And so your only son?
Only son. We had a daughter. We lost her 4 years ago. She died of an illness. But I have 3 grandchildren.
The next with grandchildren.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I know where you're going.
Yeah. Good deal. So, what is it that you currently do now with your world?
Well, I visit. I camp. I backpack. I hike.
Nice.
I was a mountain climber for many, many years. Rock climber, mountain climber. I can't do that anymore. I aged out. The body just doesn't do what you want it to. But I've been traveling a bunch. I go up to North Carolina twice a year. I play golf with 12 of my high school friends, some of whom we go to Blowing Rock. I'm going in 3 weeks. We're going to Blowing Rock, North Carolina. We go there every fall because of the western North Carolina mountains, and the fall is just beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Just beautiful. Gorgeous. We go to Myrtle Beach every spring around Easter time. So I meet those guys twice a year, and when I'm gone, I stay for a month or so. And I visit a lot of my old friends. Since I lived in the North Carolina area for so many years, I've got a lot of friends there. So I give them advance warning, and
Advance warning.
I say, you want to get together? Well, I don't. I'm buying dinner. Okay. Yes.
Well, you're using up life as the way it was spent to be. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm trying to live, the best life I can.
Absolutely.
Because none of us are guaranteed tomorrow.
Truth.
And I've got a crystal ball, but it's been broken for years. So it's a great paperweight. But no, I travel a fair amount. As I just mentioned, I've just come back from Texas, Canada, Alaska. Last year, my Army buddy of mine, we rented an RV and we traveled all over the West. And we went to, 15 national parks.
That's awesome.
And just did that for like 20 some days. Next year, I'm wanting to go to Ireland, Scotland, Wales, New Zealand, Italy, the Netherlands.
Look at you.
Yeah, well, I'm just, again, my life situation is such that all of a sudden it's me and my dog. Okay? And, and about that much in your bank account. So you just kind of look at what you've always thought you would want to do. And if you're serious about it, you qualify it and then you put it on the list. And then you just, like going to the fair and shooting down those little plinking targets. Just one right after the other.
There's a lot of knowledge in that statement right there. So let me ask, what do you feel as though, well, let me ask you this. Do you feel as though there were certain aspects that you got from the military?
Oh, absolutely.
From the service?
Absolutely. And I don't have to dig very deep to come up with those. For me personally, structure, which I needed. Structure. 18 years old, barely got out of high school, didn't have an interest in school except for blonde-headed cheerleaders. But they got me through high school. Seriously. So the structure, the intensity of focus.
Yes.
Okay. And I was a LERP in Vietnam. You know what a LERP is. And, at 19, I found myself as an assistant team leader. And I did that for a very short period of time. And the team leader, I don't know if he lived or not. He caught on fire. And I tried to save him. And saved him, but I don't know if he lived. So suddenly you're 19, you're thrust into the leadership role. And now you got a team under you. And I was the youngest one. And then kind of a similar thing happened. I wound up through a period of probably 6 months or so and doing many, many missions, becoming the platoon sergeant at 19. And that's an experience that really shaped me. I wound up becoming a salesman. I was in construction following the Army. Then I was a tractor trailer driver, which is a terrible, terrible job. Never want to do that again. But it just shows you, and I think this is terribly important in life, find out what the heck you don't want to do. It leads you to what you do want to do. So then I became a salesman, and I was chasing money because they make good money. And I think one of the things that helped me early on is a lot of my customers recognized in the 70s that I was the guy with the short haircut. Okay? They're like, did you serve in them? Yes, sir, I did. And they're, I'm 25, 28 years old, and they're in their 40s or 50s. So they kind of pull me in. And I had customers that did wonderful things for me, just really looked out after me. And in turn, I respected that, and I tried to take care of them. Then I became a sales trainer, then a sales manager, and then I was a president of a sales organization in New York. So the point is, through a lot of that training in the Army, you wind up learning how to deal with people. You learn how to lead people.
For sure.
You learn how to recognize pretty quick who's who,
Yes.
and what's what,
Yep.
and what not to mess with. Okay?
More importantly.
Very important. And so I was very, very fortunate. I excelled in the sales and the sales management area. Then I went into business development, which was a very interesting job because every day I get to wake up and do whatever I decide I want to do that day.
Nice.
And I was developing things for customers and particularly the sales force and the managers for point of sale work.
Gotcha.
But I really feel like all those little pieces came together for me in the Army. No question.
That's really good. That's it. So, if there was a younger gentleman in front of you like me, younger, much younger, and what piece of advice, just from your years of experience, just in life, what kind of piece of advice would you give to them when it comes to military and or just in life, period?
Figure out what the number one thing is. Always. That's number one. Figure out what the number one thing is to you. Pursue it. And always ask yourself, what's the best possible use of my time right now?
Boom.
To be able to attack that number one thing.
Perfect.
The rest will take care of itself.
That's outstanding. Very, very good. Very good. That's pretty full. That's pretty much it. What we have. Is there any other anecdote or anything else you feel like you want to add for anyone who's watching or listening to this?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am very concerned about the direction of our country.
Yes, sir.
And the military, without a doubt, all armed forces have the ability to mold people in the way that I was molded and you were molded. However, there's only roughly anywhere from 3 to 7% of the population that goes in the military, depending upon the times. And even smaller percentage that go to combat. And I think that's good. I don't want more people going to combat.
Sure.
But take pride in your country. Drop all this woke crap.
Thank you.
It's not real.
True.
It does not exist. And there's no future in it. It bears no fruit.
Very much so.
And the last thing I would say is common sense isn't all that common.
I've been saying that for years. Very true. Well, listen, David, it's been a true pleasure speaking with you. I want to thank you personally on behalf of myself and the Pinellas County Veterans Association for partaking in this and sharing your experiences with us.
And thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Good
Thanks
luck
so
with
much.
your project.
Thank you, sir.